You don't have to invent every good idea, right? Like you can copy and flatter people that way. I'm not saying that you're not stealing other ideas, but I think there's lots of great businesses out there that are doing a lot of amazing things and you can be inspired by them and you can be inspired by talking to people in your network. And it doesn't have to be like, oh my gosh, I'm inventing this brand new thing for the first time. Like just look and see what others are doing and start there.
Welcome to Maker's Mindset. I'm your host, Nancy Twine. And in this episode, I'm in conversation with Meera Bhatia, Chief Operating Officer of Fabletics and President of TechStyleOS, the operational powerhouse behind brands like Fabletics and Savage x Fenty. Meera leads critical areas such as growth, technology, supply chain, and global member services. With a strong foundation in tech and retail from her early days at Expedia and Microsoft, she's also held notable roles as COO at Stella Dot and as product management leader at LinkedIn. Let's go ahead and jump in. So welcome, Meera. I am so excited to be in conversation with you today. And your career journey spans such diverse roles across major companies like Microsoft and Expedia to leadership roles at LinkedIn, Stella Dot, and now Fabletics. And I know that moving from a tech-focused career into retail and fashion is a very unique path. And I really want to explore what inspired that shift. So talk to me about what Fabletics and TechOS do and what initially motivated you to transition from tech into the fashion and retail industry.
First of all, thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I think my career journey now has been a little bit long. So, if you had sort of asked me, 20 years ago when I was first finishing out of school, what was I going to do? I don't know that I'd ever really pictured I was going to be if in fashion. Retail has always been like an area of interest. But I started off in technology. And I think at the time that I started in the industry, I think jobs in technology meant like you work in a tech company. And then I think I started to realize that there's just so many other ways to do tech that's so applicable to so many different industries now. And so as I sort of progressed, ultimately, I felt like there was just a huge opportunity in retail and in fashion to disrupt through technology. And it just felt like a different application of doing something I really love in an industry also that I really love because, retail and fashion is really fun to be around.
Yeah, completely. And I know that under your leadership, Fabletics has embraced a really omnichannel approach that integrates both digital and in-store experiences, creating a really seamless journey for the customer. And so for founders, business owners, and executives who are focused on meeting their clients where they're at, what's been your approach to understanding and addressing customer needs across different platforms?
Well, I think one of the great things about being kind of a digitally native business is that we have a lot of data, right? So I'm sure we'll talk about it in a little bit, we're a membership-based business. So we kind of learn a lot about our customers and we can take that experience both from online into their in-store experience and back again. So I think one is like we can collect a lot of information because we know what, they love to shop. We know their favorite products. We know, their behavior. So we can dive into customer behavior in a really like meaningful way. And, for many of our customers, we're kind of their favorite brand. So, it's an opportunity to learn a lot. So I think first is like listening to what the data tells us, right? And then second, we are obsessed with talking to customers. Again, I think like a great benefit of like a membership model is that we have super fans, right? And when we ask them to talk to us, like they will. So we ask a lot of questions. We ask them to test product. We ask how about their shopping experience. We take all of that information and try to kind of weave it into building the best experience that we can for them.
That's great. And you touched on the fact that Fabletics operates on a unique membership-based model, which obviously can present some distinct challenges and differences compared to a traditional retail model. So what operational challenges come with a membership-based model? And what advice would you give to business owners who are maybe navigating decisions around how to create a winning subscription model?
So I think about it as an opportunity more than a challenge, right? So I think everything is a positive with a membership. So operational challenges, like one, people are always very surprised when they kind of see like even our site metrics, like we have cyber peak level traffic in the beginning of the month, every month, right? Coming from a previous business that didn't have that, I was sort of used to, much more traditional, like things kind of edge along and then you hit, Black Friday and they go through the roof. And for us, like we have like a Black Friday like event literally every month. because members are excited to come in and get their credit and see what's new, right? So that is, from a technology standpoint, well, I guess now it's actually like it's second nature for us that we can handle it. But that's unique. That also drives order volume that's like spiky and not as consistent maybe, or like even across the month. That from fulfillment and customer service, you have to kind of think about differently. So it does drive some difference in shopping behavior. The benefit of it though is that it does give you a lot more predictability. So we're a business that has a lot less waste, I think, in our model, because again, we kind of know sizing, we know preference, we just have a lot more visibility into what people are going to want. And so, we have like an industry low return rate, sub 7%, which I think in retail is like unheard of. And so like all that stuff is a benefit. So like I said, I think there's challenges and kind of knowing how you're preparing for a different pattern of shopping behavior, but there's also a lot of benefit to it as well. So I think like those are all the kind of the operational details, but I think for somebody considering it as a business model, one, I think it really has to start with it needs to be a win-win, right? So there's a lot of operational reasons that it's good around waste and predictability, but ultimately, we also have to deliver value for the customer. And I think that's what you have to think about. Like, what's the value of having it be membership or subscription? We call it membership because we don't like auto ship anything to anyone, but what's the value to the customer in having this model? It can't just be about like what the business is going to get out of it. So for us, it's special access to deals, much more compelling price points because of the way the program works, special collections, et cetera. So we have to have like kind of the equal value exchange in the whole business model.
Yeah. And I was going to say, I feel like, membership subscription-based models, I think it really forces you to be extra client-centric too. Like even when I think about like a membership club that you go to, you're only going to renew your membership each year. Yeah, if it's a great experience and you feel engaged and it's actually adding value. So I think that's kind of a cool aspect as well. It really keeps you on your toes and very client-centric.
Totally. And, again, I'd say like we're not a subscription. Like we don't, you have the option to not be billed every month. You don't have to buy something every month, but you're right. Like for people to come in and kind of have that commitment and stay members with us for a long term, which is what we hope they will. Like we have to every month be bringing them something that they're really excited about, even if they decide not to shop that month. But we have to be providing great customer service. We have to sort of earn that trust over and over and over. It's not like a one-off transaction.
Right. Completely. So your background in tech and e-commerce really gives you a unique perspective on the role of tech in driving growth. And you've consistently been an advocate for using data and tech to inform product development and improve the customer experience. So for entrepreneurs that are looking to enable tech-enabled enhancements into their business, how do you think about where to prioritize those investments first? And how do you make sure it's actually working?
Yeah. I mean, I think in this day and age, right, like I said, even when I think about like my career, right, it used to be that to do tech, like you kind of went to a certain number of places. Now it's everywhere, right? So I think you kind of have to be thinking about how you're going to bring it into your business, but not just for technology's sake, right? So I think about it in two buckets. How can you use it to innovate or improve the customer experience? And how can you use it to operate your business more efficiently, right? Like one might sound more fun than the other, but both are probably like really, really important, right? So the value of data and AI, I think all of that stuff can be used operationally to drive efficiency in your business model. But those same things can also be used to deliver a better shopping experience, to delight the customer, to do something different, make it feel different than like the average, e-com experience. So I would think about both buckets. I would think about what's important, again, to your business. Like, are you trying to really innovate? Ultimately, if you have a great physical product, sometimes those other technology data points make less of a difference just because you have to start with like having a great product, right? And the technology is then about enabling that great product versus like, am I going to just like build this amazing shopping experience? But if you're a pure digital business, then like, how do you incorporate those experiences into your front end customer experience? It's like even more important.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think it's something that, now more than ever, even small businesses really need to think about, how am I going to leverage technology to get ahead, right? We'll talk about AI in a moment, but I think with more, companies and competitors really embracing tech as a way to become more efficient, if you're not doing that now, you're going to get left behind.
Right? That's what I'm saying. Like you kind of have to, in this day and age, you have to be thinking about how you're going to use it. But the amazing thing is now there's so many, it doesn't require you being a technologist, right? Like there's so many great companies that are building services that you can tap into. There's so many great,
add-on apps that you can build.
Yeah. It's a lot less intimidating. It doesn't mean that you need to hire an army of engineers to build everything from scratch. And in fact, for most companies, I would say don't do that because it's not there, it's not the best way to approach it, but there's a lot of help out there in the universe now.
Absolutely. And in a recent podcast, you highlighted the important role that AI plays at Fabletics, especially in creating personalized experiences for your customers. And so for entrepreneurs that are looking to leverage AI in their own businesses, what advice would you offer on starting small with tech-driven personalization?
Yeah, and I think this is what I was just saying, which is that there's so many companies. I mean, there are so many companies that are investing in technology to help you personalize different parts of the experience. Like you do not need to hire your own data scientists, right? What I would say is think about how you vet, a handful of companies and think about how do you experiment with them to see where the best use cases are and where you can get the most payback, right? AI ultimately is just an evolution of data usage, right? It's kind of the hot word, but ultimately it's like algorithms, right? Right. So I think there's, depending on what you're doing and what your business is focused on, there's 100 partners you could probably talk to think about how do you sort of test some of those and start small, to your point. And I think it's also what I was saying is that you think about how to use it operationally, you can think about how to use it in the front end experience. There's just so many ways to start. But in this day and age, you're going to have to experiment with some of it.
Totally. And I think also too, not everyone maybe knows where tech can be beneficial to their business. And I always say, just go to other brands' websites that you admire, see what they're doing, take notes. And sometimes that's where you get the ideas, right?
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to invent every good idea, right? Flattery, you can copy and flatter people that way. I'm not saying that you're not stealing other ideas, but I think that's inspiration there's lots of great businesses out there that are doing a lot of amazing things and you can be inspired by them and you can be inspired by talking to people in your network and hearing what's going on. I just feel like it doesn't have to be intimidating.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be oh my gosh, I'm inventing this brand new thing for the first time. Just look and see what others are doing and start there.
Definitely. And at Fabletics, you've really led the charge on building a distribution strategy that blends online and offline experiences in a very seamless way. And that omnichannel approach is so important, especially with how customers want flexibility across every touch point. And as someone responsible for both digital and in-store experiences, what role do physical stores play in your broader vision for customer engagement?
Yeah, I mean, we started as a direct-to-consumer business and kind of expanded into physical retail over time. Obviously that can take more capital. So that's the reason that sometimes people don't do it, off in the beginning. But for us, we found it to be very additive. So where we go with physical retail, we see our online business pick up too. So they're they feel mutual success. And so I'm an online shopper. My preference is online shopping, but the reality is a lot of people are not like that yet, right? So physical retail is about, having those opportunities for people who are not like you or I and want to be able to shop in a different way.
And feel the fabric.
Yeah. And I think that's actually really important for us too. We are, ultimately a value-based brand. A lot of people experience us for the first time through our Instagram ads that are about the first time offer. And they can maybe make a calculation in their head that the product's going to be feel a certain way, and as soon as they touch and feel it, they experience it in a very different way. So that's why we believe in physical retail. But I think the two living hand in hand is really important. And this is where it goes back to the data, right? You become a member in store, we're bringing that experience online for you as well. It's all very integrated. And I think it's important to kind of go where customers want to be and meet them in the place that they want to be as well.
Completely. And so for entrepreneurs that are starting out with an online only presence, what advice would you give them on the decision to expand into physical retail?
I think it really starts with like, what's your goal, right? So, I mean, I think the great thing about digital is like the barriers to entry are a lot lower now. There's so many tools, so many ways to get up and running online very, very quickly. And as I mentioned, obviously physical retail just is more capital intensive. But I'd say like, what's your why for going physical? Is it because you want people to be able to have, touch and feel product and you feel like they're going to feel a different way about it when they experiment, when they're in person with it? Is it because you want a channel to be able to test new things? Is it because you really just want like a very brand heavy experience, right? That you want an immersive brand and you can't express that in the same way in an online experience. I think we all thought like Web3 was going to be this like immersive brand experience, but it's just not yet, right? Like some of that you can only really deliver in like a physical retail experience. So I'd say start with your why, or you're just looking for it to be a revenue driver, which is a great reason too. But I think that would actually dictate how and when and how you think about an approach to physical retail.
Yeah. And I thought it was interesting what you said earlier about the fact that where you have physical locations, you see a bump up in online business. So in some ways, these physical locations, perhaps act as a marketing vehicle as
Totally
well.
marketing. Like you walk by a storefront, you might not walk in the store at that moment, but you think about it, and also gives a little bit of legitimacy too to the brand, right, to see it in person. But it also is true the reverse as well. Like we wouldn't take a store to a place, like we look at where our cohorts are online as well, because we kind of know we need to have a core base of customer to make the economics of the store work as well. So that's another thing to think about, right?
Right.
Going into a location where no one's ever heard of you, it's going to be really hard to get the like traffic and attention that you need to make that store successful.
Yeah, completely. And in a previous interview, you shared that good leaders are authentic, and that's what I strive to be. And I know that diversity, inclusion, just truly supporting your employees or values that you're deeply committed to. And it's clear that your hands-on, authentic approach is central to how you lead. I'd love to know what specific strategies you've implemented to foster collaboration and empowerment within your team.
Yeah. First of all, I love that you've researched me. I appreciate that. I think all of this sort of starts with like acting the way that you want other people to act. So like if I think about collaboration, right? Like I strive to interact with my peers and the other members of our leadership team in a very open and collaborative way. And I think by modeling that behavior amongst the teams that I work with, it kind of can trickle down, right? So I always want to approach every situation. I tell people this all the time, right? Like when you're in a functional area, it's really easy to get like sucked into your functional area and be like, oh, tech did this or merchandising isn't thinking about this. I'm like, no, everybody's like, assume best intent. It seems so basic, but like assume best intent with everybody, every other team. And if they didn't do something, there's probably like a range of reasons that it hasn't happened. And it's not because they just didn't care, right? Probably because they had 9 other priorities. And so I think one is to model the behavior that you want your teams to have yourself and how you interact. And then the second is like really living this, like assume best intent from everyone else. And I think that really sets things up for really great collaboration.
Yeah, I think that's so important, especially, in my industry, in the beauty industry, the sales and marketing teams are known to, butt heads at points. And sometimes a little bit of that tension is a good thing.
I agree. It totally is.
Where it becomes disruptive to the culture, I think what you said was totally spot on, is that you have to really, give people the benefit of the doubt. We're all working towards the same vision and dream at the end of the day. And
nobody's mailing it in.
Right.
Like, everyone's like working really hard. It's just that they might not, their list of the things that they're working really hard at might not be 100% aligned with the things that you think that it should be.
Right.
And so then go talk to them about it. Right. But you're right. Healthy tension is good, but you got to watch that balance.
Completely. Yeah. So scaling a brand like Fabletics at such a rapid pace really takes a combination of strategy and adaptability. And, the growth that you all have experienced doesn't just happen, right? It really requires an operational backbone that can withstand rapid change. So how do you ensure that the brand stays agile and responsive to market changes as it scales? And are there, certain systems or tools that you've put in place to really track that?
Honestly, I think the answer to that is it really starts much more with the people, right? Because, and I think this is a little bit of my tech DNA, which is that technology by default just moves really, really quickly. And a lot of those tech companies move really, really quickly. And so I bring that same sort of agility and way of thinking into Fabletics. And I think we have to hire people who can operate that way too, right? Who are comfortable making decisions quickly, who are comfortable with a pace, who are open to things changing, right? And without people who can kind of live in that ethos and mindset, I think all the systems would fail, right? There's obviously a balance. You don't want to be like changing course all the time, but I think having that kind of results-oriented, fast-moving DNA, it really sets you up for success in that.
Yeah, it's really important. And I tell people all the time when you're interviewing, it can't just be about the resume, but you have to really understand sort of what are those traits and values that people, especially leaders within the organization, need to embody to support the culture of the company.
Yeah, I often spend very little time talking about actual resume because I feel like at that point, it's like I can read the resume. Like, let's like get to the next thing about your behaviors around this or the situations, right? I think that's much more important than like checking the box if they did this one thing or didn't.
Completely. And I think in the hiring process too, you really have to just spend time with people.
Totally. It's really easy to sometimes rush. People get panicked. Like, I need to fill this role. And
Right.
I have this person, right? But like, spend the time. Like, if you're not sure, go back and have another conversation. Go have, especially with some of the senior level hires I make, like, I go out for dinner with them. I go out for coffee, spend time outside of like just the formal interview because you're making some pretty big decisions there. And you really have to make sure they're going to fit into the way you want to work too, right? Not just know how to do the job.
So hiring should take time. That's a good thing.
I think it does. I mean, yeah, listen, like I get it. Like that when the role is empty, it's like desperation of like, I got to fill it. But like these are big decisions and they can make or break companies too, like how well you hire.
Completely. And so on that topic of scaling quickly, what are some critical operational components that businesses should really focus on when they're in those high growth early stages?
Yeah, I mean, aside from people, which is number one, I think it's like probably thinking about I'm not sure there's one answer for everybody on that. I think it's probably thinking about like, what is the highest like priority area that can't break, if that makes sense, right? Like, what is it? Like, what is your unique proposition that you're bringing to market? And therefore, what are the components of that like absolutely have to work at all times in order to be successful? And I think that's where you kind of have to invest first, right? So, you would be surprised. There are still things we're not a small business that, we run on spreadsheets because like to date, like that hasn't been the thing that's going to like make or break us. But there's other things where like, we've made massive investments in making sure like our membership journey works, our onboarding experience works, right? Like, and it's like seamless because it's so critical to our success. And then you can kind of like ignore the other stuff. Not forever.
Yeah, I love that you shared that because especially with a company like the one you're at, it's massive. Like it's okay to have some things be a little archaic so that you can spend the time on the things that matter most. I think that is so critical. So your journey has taken you from roles at companies like LinkedIn and Expedia to operational leadership at Stella and Dot, and now scaling Fabletics to new heights. And I'm sure each step has come with its own unique challenges or opportunities, right? So how do you personally stay resilient and focused during those times?
I mean, I think it's like with everything is that, I mean, I don't know, at some point, maybe I don't say resilient, right? Like, and I think that's okay too. Like sometimes to say like, this is a lot and there's a lot happening and recognize the points where you're kind of hitting your breaking point. But for me, it's everything's finding a balance. Like you have to kind of focus on what's important to you. Like, what are the things that that's going to keep you as an individual, like ticking and happy, right? For me, that's like, I do actually need to get like 7 hours minimum of sleep. I need, and if that means going to sleep early, that's what it is. And like, I do actually have to work out every morning, not every morning, most mornings, like I do have to have that time. Like I do have to have like, the time to like have a little bit of personal space. And then I can fully get into what needs to be done. Right. Yeah. So I think it's like figuring out what are those things for you that make you healthy and productive and making sure you prioritize them because work can be a lot, right? Like it is a lot. There are real problems. And I think especially as you start to lead big teams and companies, like you're responsible for a lot of people and it can be stressful. So I think just figuring out a way to pick your head up out of the everyday and do the things that like make you feel like a healthy whole person is like how you can kind of handle everything else that's going on too.
I couldn't agree more. And I think the thing that I'm struggling with right now is like, I do all those things that you mentioned when I'm like, in my home city and I've got all my things set up. For me, what's so hard is when I'm on the road. Yeah, it's so challenging because you're, in new time zones. Like I'm on the West Coast this week and, you're back to back. So having some of the routine is just really hard to do. Yeah. So that's where I'm struggling at the moment.
I know. I mean, I think even like I have little rules, like I literally don't go on a business trip without my running shoes. Even though I know, a lot of the time, like I'm going to be off in the time zone or something, right? But I'm like, I like set myself up to hopefully be able to do it.
No excuses. You got your shoes.
But I come up with excuses. I sound like the most disciplined person in the world. I'm not, but at least like set yourself up to be able to make the right, the decisions that are going to help you. Yeah, but I get it. Like it's hard. I mean, the good news is I'm not a road warrior really. Like I do travel, but like I can control some of those things. And so I guess it's like control what you can control and set yourself up to be able to do the things that you need to be able to do, will make you feel better.
Completely. As a seasoned leader with a very diverse career background, your insights are so valuable for entrepreneurs and aspiring leaders. And to close, I'd love to hear some of your wisdom on the power of mindset and really how it's helped you to navigate the ups and downs of your career. So how do you think our audience can supercharge their success by leveraging the right mindset?
I struggle with how to answer that because on the one hand, it's like mindset is just everything, right? First, just like believe that, right? Mindset is everything. There is going to be like hard moments. There are going to be times where you're like, oh my gosh, why am I doing this? Like, is this worth it, right? Like, but remembering your why, like remembering also like it's not, I'm not solving cancer. I think a lot of people are, and that's amazing, right? But like putting some context around the things that I'm trying to accomplish, remembering like what they mean, I think helps you sort of approach with the right, like, I don't know, like levity to your experience as well. But I just feel like life's too short to do things without like a really positive outlook on them. And like, why be unhappy and negative about it? Like, it's just get your brain into the place where you're going to be happy and excited. And if you're not there, like take the time out to get back there because it makes just everything easier.
I cannot agree more. Well, before we wrap up, we're going to pivot into the really fun part, 5 fire facts, which is a rapid fire interview just so that our audience can get to know you in a fun way.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Best career advice you've ever received?
Just say yes.
Most memorable moment at Fabletics?
Probably when Lizzo came to perform in our office and did an acoustic concert.
That's so fun.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Do you watch that show Tiny Desk on NPR?
Yeah, so good.
Like that's like my dream.
Yeah.
Tech innovation that excites you?
I mean, AI.
There we go. Best decision you've made in your career?
Moving to London. This is my job. I moved with Microsoft years ago. Yeah.
Very cool. The Fabletics item that every wardrobe needs?
Define power hold legging.
Ooh, I've got to try that one.
I should have brought some for you. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, this was so much fun. Lastly, where can people shop Fabletics?
Fabletics.com, or obviously we have 100 retail stores and growing. So look for us in your kind of neighborhood mall as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Meera. I loved our conversation. This was so fun.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. This is really fun.
To stay connected with Meera, the Makers Mindset community, and me, check out all the details in the episode description below. And check out Spotify or Apple Podcasts to hear a few bonus reflections from me on this episode. And don't forget to subscribe to this series, leave a review, and share this episode with your community. Thank you so much for tuning in.